takes a special kind of person to bring their visions to life, to create their own path, all while creating a monumental festival that has played a large role in the shaping of the culture of Detroit for the past 20 years. Welcome to Celebrate Michigan, the show produced on the campus of Madonna University. I'm Chris Benson. Today, we're joined by Timothy Price, a veteran of Detroit's art, fashion, and music industries, founder and CEO of The Market Detroit. He's an activist, and last but definitely not least, co-founder of the Detroit Electronic Music Festival, which we will celebrate this year in the 20-year anniversary. So Timothy Price, great to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to hear, how did you get started here in Detroit?
Well, I got started, actually, I came working in fashion or retail, and then I was living in Grand Rapids. I wanted to go to a real city, and I was going to Detroit and Chicago on the weekends, and so I knew about Detroit, and actually we used to come down here and play with bands I worked with. We would come down to Detroit. I wanted to go to a real city, so I wanted to go to Chicago, and they said we didn't have an opening, so they're like, well, well, how about Detroit? We have an opening there, and I'm like, Detroit's not a real city. But I took the job, came, and I moved to downtown Detroit in 1990, living above Nicky's, and it was just, a scene in Detroit, and I was going over to St. Andrews a lot. And I'd heard about the electronic music scene when I worked in rock and roll and heavy metal through Metro Times and things like that. And then, anyway, so I just met some people, and they were starting to do parties, or the AKA raves is a bad word. And then, yeah, so I had the production background, and I had a knack for creating events, because in high school, when my parents would go away, I threw keggers and things like that in the basement, and so I'd have bands play and things like that. So I always had a knack for throwing parties and doing the organizational as a music person. But yeah, and it just was a natural progression. And as in the 90s, we were producing, our events kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's kind of how I got, and I was always had a day job kind of in fashion, and then finally in 95 I broke off and went full-time into music. So we're working for the record labels and so forth.
So it sounds like music has just been in your blood the whole time.
I guess so. I mean, I've never, there's a lot of people who study to go to a music school or, the business aspect of music. I was never one of those people. I mean, I've had interns who worked with me or for me, and they're like, they wanted just because of their passion to be in music. I was never one of those people. I always kept getting pulled back, and I've tried to get out of music many times, and it just seems to pull me back in a way. So I guess I'm stuck with it. So music, even if now that I'm more in the art world, or whatever you want to say, in the historical world, I always bring the element of music into it. Whether if we're producing an installation, I got to have somebody produce the music to that installation kind of thing. So. Well,
I understand you brought some pictures to share with us today that are going to, basically show us a bit about things you've created, things you've been involved in.
Okay.
So we're looking at them right now. Talk us through what we're watching here.
This is Begal. It was a clothing line that I my fashion background. So I was, I was going to go to New York and pursue my career more, but the artist I was working for, he's like, stay in Detroit, and instead of doing music for the record label, you can do your own clothing line. So awesome. I created PL, and that was a transition for that. And by doing that, I started doing the label merchandise, and through Plastic Man and the different merchandise blew up, and that kind of pulled me more into the record label part of the business. So, wow. And I got all that in sections. So.
A man of many talents, clearly.
Oh, God.
How about that?
Well, that's actually Richard, the artist I worked for over 10 years. His parents and myself, this is in Montreal, backstage getting the passes together, and we're just kind of organizing. And it was the first live show he had done in 10 years, and it was pretty monumental. And we had taken the train up, and it was a great experience. So.
Wow. You've been involved in so many different aspects of the scene here in Detroit. How about this one?
This is actually the first year of the Electronic Music Festival, DEMP. And actually Doug Walgahinsky snapped this photo of, you can see my laminate kind of running around with the old school Madonna headset. So.
Nice, nice. Oh, and I know what that is.
Yeah. So this is actually DMF the first year when we had no budget, but we still wanted to have elements of our underground parties, because when we would do the parties back in the 90s, a lot of the rooms were very rough. So we would cover the walls with plastic, and so we brought some, and that's all we could afford anyways. We had very limited money for budget. So.
Sure. Oh, it looks great. I just want to be there.
No, this is a unique story. This was the entrance of the first year of the festival, and the city gave us some perimeters to work with. Usually they would just get a highway sign, put it on a flatbed truck, there was a certain budget for the sign of the festival, when it was the, African. So what I did is I said, well, that doesn't represent our culture at all.
Yeah.
I took the money from that and I said, let's do an installation. So I got 38 TVs, 19-inch TVs, and I just played static through and put vinyl lettering over it, and basically we built an installation.
Oh my gosh, that's what I'm looking at.
It's all like roofing tin, and it's just,
Sweet.
I mean, it was not even, I had a $1,000 budget to do that. So I had a crew of guys going to all the thrift stores all through Metro Detroit, buying 19-inch TVs, and yeah, it was just kind of winged it up. So,
how awesome.
and it became a pinnacle point of the festival. So.
Oh wow, and there it is at night.
This is movement. This is what Paxahau produces, and this is what it's become now. It's a landmark. It's stepped up and been to the pinnacle of Detroit. So.
Oh wow, with the wonderful skyline in the back there.
Yeah.
Oh, and as we wear these masks today, and we're obviously in the middle of the pandemic, my heart just longs for those times when you could be outside listening to some awesome music on the riverfront, just taking it all in. And I imagine that's a big piece of why you do this.
Well, yeah, and it was, like the one fat picture you just saw, that was like we knew it was the pinnacle, and not just of myself, but even the artist I managed at the time, and, he was so nervous and shaking, and when they were chanting his name, but I actually teared up, like when we looked out at the crowd and with the Ren Center, and, we had done festivals all in the 90s in Europe and in Germany and London and England and all that, but when we were back home and we saw the energy, and it was the birth of a child, it was the pinnacle of our careers. So.
Oh, and it feels so good. I know we're going to get back to those times. I
yeah.
mean,
well, we have to. That's the thing. So, yeah, and it's a time to, and this is terrible what we're living through, but it's a time to regroup, and that's where our industry, and especially our music scene, we always had to reinvent the wheel. Whether the record labels, we had to create our own record labels. Events, we weren't allowed in clubs, so we did our own, parties, and then so that kind of thing. So we were always more inventive, and that's where I think we're going to step up, and our music culture and scene will definitely. We're not going anywhere, so we're people want it. So.
And I love that creative message that you share. And we do have to take a quick break,
okay.
Just for a second. But I know in the next segment you're going to talk about, I feel like we've only scratched the surface. There's so much with you. So just stay right there.
Okay.
And just like you out there, I'm absolutely enjoying this conversation with him. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, you'll hear more about Demph, more from Timothy, and more about Detroit's story as the home of techno. Stay tuned.
Say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, and this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
I want to see the world.
When you pick up a book,
I used to read every night to all the younger kids,
and let your imagination break free, you won't believe how much fun it can be.
Let down your house.
Experience a world of adventure, excitement, and endless possibilities. Get tangled up in a good book. Explore new worlds. Read. Visit read.gov today.
Yes, ready.
Come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
When life's this hard, it's no wonder 7,000 students drop out every school day. Visit boostup.org and help kids in your community stay in school.
Welcome back to Celebrate Michigan. I'm Chris Benson, and I'm here with Timothy Price, a veteran of Detroit's art, fashion, and music industry, as well as a co-founder of the Detroit Electronic Music Festival. He's telling us all about Detroit's special place in the world of techno. Oh, you know, I don't know. Was it an Eminem song where they said nobody listens to techno? Come on, we know that's not true, especially not here in Detroit. So how did you see this start, and what was it like at the very beginning?
Well, the festival or the music?
Yeah.
Well, the one thing was like, as parties progressed, but the artists were rock stars in Europe, you know, and in Asia and all that, you know. So, I mean, it was kind of crazy, you know, come back home and it was, you know, unless it was a small underground party, because again, the clubs would even have us, you know. It was, you know, like until the late 90s and like Motor came around. But, yeah, it was, you know, when the festival was created, and Carl, actually, just to reiterate something, I wasn't a founder. I was on the team that created, you know, helped make the festival happen. So it was actually Carol Marvin and Carl Craig were the founders. And then when Carl was brought aboard, the first person he brought into his team was me as the visual director. But it was all hands on.
Sure.
And we didn't know, you know, how to create. We thought maybe 10,000 people would show up. You know, we were like, if we get 10,000 people, we're going to be lucky. And it was just kind of pulling in resources. All the artists just threw in, played, you know, no fees, come down, hang out. It was like our family got together. It was a family reunion. And it was just, we got there and it was spiritual the first year, and the second year when we had the money from Ford, it was even more monumental because we actually couldn't really show some things off, and it stepped up, you know, brought some international talent in.
And so with the music scene and techno kind of starting here in the area, I know there was a global expansion. I mean, it's everywhere now, right? And so I know you also have traveled quite a bit, and you've seen the influence of this go near and far. Tell us about some of your exciting travels.
Well, yeah, like in '97, a well-known festival called Travel Gathering, and actually that's the festival where Kraftwerk came out of retirement. They had the main tent, and we actually recreated a Detroit tent with the black imagery and coming into a black box. That's what the dance rooms were known for. We would create four quad sound, 4 speakers in corners, walk in, it was just, you were there to dance. That was the experience of it. And so anyway, yeah, so when we did that, and, you know, in Germany, Time Warp and things like that were playing off. They were, you know, the Detroit and Chicago and New York artists would come in and headline these festivals in Europe, and, you know, and the clubs, and we're more known over there than what we were there, so.
Wow, and you know, all of this had a huge cultural impact on the city of Detroit. How have you seen that evolve over the last 20 years?
Yeah, well, the one thing that was nice about, you know, our festival that happened at Hart Plaza, it wasn't just that the festival happened and people went home. I think that's what, even like, you know, I think sure Jazz Festival has some, you know, after parties here and there, things happening, but we kind of course, took the city over. We had international people come in from all over the world, Asia, Japan, you know, everywhere in Europe. And so, you know, all hotels were full. We had after parties, and, you know, we had press conferences during the day. And I mean, and these people knew, I mean, I used to get what we call the techno tour. And people would come in, that was before the internet, you know, where people would know about the salt mines and know about Gratiot Avenue, which was considered Techno Boulevard, because you could drive up there with Derek May's studio and the different ones, go all the way up into Roseville with Record Time. So, and then Melodies and Memories, all the record stores were on Gratiot, so it was known as Techno Boulevard. But they would know the locations, they knew the train station, they knew, and again, this was way before, so they would come in and they want to see these iconic landmarks of Detroit. So we, you know, during the day when we'd wander around, and, you know, they were more knowledgeable about the city than actually Detroiters were.
And I've lived in the Detroit area my whole life, you know, native Michigander, and just to see and to think back to 2000, 20 years ago, how far it has come, and how much this kind of, again, the cultural impact, the entertainment, the thriving, the pride, it really has made a difference. I mean, I can see it, and I'm sure people have been very grateful to you about it for your part.
Yeah, it was a great team that, you know, when Paxau was the perfect team to take it over, because those guys, again, threw their own parties, and were doing, their parties or events were known in the city, and they had become a staple. So the first year they did, in 2005, when Kevin Saunderson took the festival over from Derek, it was called Fusion. They did the underground stage. So the next year when the festival contract came up, it was only a natural progression that they won the contract, and they produced every year since then. And they've really stepped it up production-wise from, you know, and just made it a global impact. And it's not just about the festival itself, it's about, you know, what goes on there from the, you know, the technical rooms. I'm not a musician, so I don't know, like the labs as they call them, where you come in and play gear and stuff, and the panels and different discussions and stuff like that.
So when people are talking about Detroit around the world, many of them are probably connecting it to techno
Oh,
at
well,
this
techno,
point.
and Detroit's just known as a cultural, from hip hop to, I mean, look at the era of, there's not a genre or a time in history that there's not something being done in Detroit that's being groundbreaking, and that's in it even today. And, there's new sounds coming out of Detroit. It's kind of gone back to the music, the band-based music, but we're known for that too. I mean, even the White Stripes and thing,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can go on. We can't list all the bands that we're going to miss somebody, so.
But it's very exciting to see the impact again. And I imagine that you, as someone who was there kind of at the beginning, did you ever have an idea that it would grow to this?
No, I mean, again, I never thought I would still be working in music. And again, I've brought the flair of art and fashion into the things. But yeah, I mean, we expected to, especially on our home base, never thought it would be what it is. And and there's been, now they have. What's called the circus. Anyway, there's other festivals who are in the state of Michigan that are kind of stepping up too, and but they all have their own niche, camping to different things like that. So.
Well, and I think that's what is so exciting about this activity and this excitement around the city is that people can create these new things and people can get involved in them. And you're mentioning kind of the old scene and some of the new scene too, right? Like St. Andrews, we were talking about City Club and all these different places. And there's a whole generation, now that's like, hey, what were these? Let's hear about the history, right? Well, I know we have to take another break just in just a second, but I'm so enjoying this, and having been someone who I think I was either at the first or the second one, I just experienced the awesomeness of it.
Cool.
So anyways, time flies, and it is flying for us. We're having a great conversation with Timothy here, and right after the break, we'll be talking about what the city of Detroit is doing right now related to commemorating that 20-year experience. We're going to talk a little bit about the Historical Museum and this, again, Detroit Electronic Music Festival in the future. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Cool.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arts-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Madonna University's Broadcast and Cinema Arts program is preparing me for the future.
I'm learning from industry professionals, making connections, and honing my skills from hands-on experience every day.
The professors are dedicated to my success, instilling professionalism, creative thinking, and a strong work ethic.
Join Madonna University's Broadcast and Cinema Arts program. Earn your Bachelor's of Arts and take that first step towards your dreams.
Welcome back to Celebrate Michigan. We're here with Timothy Price, a veteran of Detroit's art, fashion, and music industry, and very involved with the Detroit Electronic Music Festival and how it started. And now he's also a curator, from what I understand. let's just add another adjective to the list. I feel like you've done so many things.
Okay.
I was talking with you during the break about just so many awesome opportunities you've had. And so now with the Detroit Historical Museum, tell us about that.
Well, art's always been more of a passion, and I had a gallery in Midtown for a bit, and I've done pop-up art events even through the electronic music scene. There's artists that we, visual artists that we want to work with, so we would do, not like parties, but we would do our day events where couldn't find a gallery, so let's produce our own gallery. Again, we always think outside the box, so if we can't go, we didn't have any galleries in Detroit. But anyway, so yeah, I actually worked, one of the projects, one of my primary projects right now is that we're working on a project called Workers' Row House in Corktown. And we did an exhibit at the Historical Museum about 2 years ago, and I got, I'd met Tracy and a couple of people. There was a 2003 exhibit for electronic techno. It was a very small kind of thing, not really small, but anyway, so working on the exhibit for the Row House, they asked you, well, we'd like to do an exhibit for the 20-year anniversary of the music, for the Electronic Music Festival movement. And do you know anybody? I'm like, yeah, kind of. And they're like, well, who? I'm like, well, then I told them my history, and they're like, will you curate it? And it just started dialogue, and then we were just supposed to be a photo gallery in the small part of the new museum by the theater, and it just kind of progressed when COVID hit, and then we were put on the back, and then the festival didn't happen last year, so then we, it kind of developed. My friend Rita, who I've worked with for many years, they had done a documentary about the first year called The Drive Home. She had approached me about finding a unique venue to screen the movie that really hasn't made it to the public. So I said, well, the museum has a perfect theater. Come aboard. Let's see if the museum and Tracy would be considering screening it. So then Rita became a co-curator, and it's been, so yeah, it's just kind of bringing my art passion into doing this, and trying to visual story of what's happened in the past.
So when visitors get to the museum, what can they expect when they are there?
Well, the one thing is, like, I know, again, we kind of pushed the boundaries, and the one thing was we want this to happen. We didn't want it to be your typical museum exhibit.
Sure.
You walk in and you actually feel like you're at a photo gallery. There's images, a small plaque next to it from the photographer, the name of the artist, the performer on stage, and the year. We wanted to keep it more, let the imagery tell the story. Chris Campbell, DET, does the Sunday night program. He did the soundscape. So when you walk in, you actually have a mix going on in the background.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a 28-foot display case that we recreated with the main stage. So when you're, basically we did a wraparound of the crowd of the Bowl Hart Plaza with the skyline. And so you're actually in the DJ booth or the live set booth. There's two different rigs. And then you kind of get the experience of what a DJ sees and the behind the scenes. It's not all pretty. There's wires running everywhere. And just get that, because so many people want to be backstage or have that one-time experience. So
I could be like DJ Chrissy Chris. I could do a dance. I could get involved. Are there dance circles I can join? Because I remember my first time going. I was telling you that I heard some men that were talking, and I was like, what language are they talking? And then we just walked up to them like, oh, we're from the Netherlands. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this here in Detroit. It was just such a neat experience. And it sounds like the museum exhibit really captures kind of some of the behind the scenes things that maybe people who come might not always see.
Well, that's what we did. We showed not only the artist on stage, but the fans, because the fans, they're not just fans. They are part of our community, and that's why we also, and you can still submit the friends and family wall where you can send your photos in, especially now with technology, because you are just much a part of the exhibit and the community and the scene that we're involved in. So you'll see a whole fan wall of people who are just randomly submitting their photos to be part of the exhibit and the curation.
Oh gosh, it sounds like a real community involvement in this exhibit.
Yeah. And then actually what we're going to do in the spring is, because on the promenade with that, we're going to bring a techno lunch hour. We're going to bring something outside on the promenade where DJs will play. We'll have some food trucks. So if it's, don't feel comfortable going into the museum, you can still come in. I don't know if you guys have seen it on Woodward. They have all of the autographed hands with a lot of known Detroit, icons. So it's really cool to see, experience that on the outdoor.
I love that you're making that kind of accommodation. Again, we're living in, everybody says, these unprecedented times, but, finding new ways to make sure that folks can safely interact with an important part of our history.
Thank you.
Wow. So now we're looking ahead, okay? We've looked back for, most of the show. What's going for the future? What are some projects or things you hope for?
The festival just announced that they've decided to postpone for this year.
Sure.
Which, it's just a chain link of offense reasons that they can't, because, And people, I mean, yeah, you might be able to produce an event, but are people going to feel comfortable being in that kind of crowd? We're going to have to kind of regroup and refigure. So, I mean, having the exhibit, I know there's a void of not having the 70-some thousand people that come into Detroit for Memorial Weekend, but there's still going to be people who want to experience something that weekend, and we will have events that we'll be announcing soon. But, you know, at least we have the exhibit where you can come and kind of have a bit of connection to the future of what's going to happen. So as far as does anybody know what's going to happen in the future? I don't think we do. So,
well,
you know.
I have a feeling based on all of the creative pivots that I've heard you talk about today and I've read about you, that there's no doubt that there will be some creative pivots to make this as accessible as possible to the people of Detroit and probably who are going to come from all around to see this.
Yeah. Well, my thing too is now I was just appointed Arts Commissioner of Hamtramck, so I'm going to be bringing an aspect of the Weekend of Movement to Hamtramck in some way, in an artistic way.
Awesome.
Same thing with Corktown at a row house. So you might not be able to experience music, but you'll be able to experience visual art or something. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, where can people find more information about you or these events?
Oh, I'm on Instagram,
Okay.
Tim Price 313 Export, and I don't know if they're going to have it all online.
Yep.
So.
Yep, we'll get it out there. Awesome.
So
look for you on Instagram. I found
Facebook,
you.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm on social media. I can't say that bad word, but yeah, but that's what gets us out there. We have the opportunity now, and even more now, it's an outlet to connect people, because that's what we've been doing.
Well, it has been such a pleasure having
Thank
you here
you.
today. Thank you for sharing with our audience this awesome piece of our past and taking a look at the future as well.
Well, stay tuned. That's what we can say.
Always, always. Well, we are wrapping up right now. We are so glad that you could be here. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much to Tim Price for joining us today, and thank you for celebrating all the awesome things in Michigan. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.